Big game and a big signing. Josh Doan sticking around for 7 more years. Talking about the contract coming up on Locked On Sabres.
You're Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody, and welcome into this Thursday edition of the Locked On Sabres podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Free and available wherever you listen to your podcast. You can watch our show on YouTube, like and subscribe there. Be a part of our Locked On Sabres Everydayer Club, too. Think you won't regret it. You'll get access to our Discord, which is a lot of fun. We were talking about Panarin and Kadri a little bit in there today. Had some thoughts on that. You also can get ad-free versions of this show. That's on any app that you might listen to. A little button at the top. You get access to that by signing up at lockedonsabres.supercast.com. A lot to get to here on today's show. Sneaky Joe DiBiase on the show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. We'll talk about the Sabres matchup with the Montreal Canadiens, which is a massive matchup on the road in Montreal. But first, the Buffalo Sabres making a big signing on Wednesday afternoon and into the evening by announcing a deal for Josh Doan. Want to look at the details of that deal, kind of where it leaves the Sabres cap-wise for next year, and how that might apply to an Alex Tuch extension or non-extension. So get to the impact of this deal on the overall for the Sabres. Take a look at the Peterka trade as it stands right now, which I think most people are feeling really good about. And plenty more on Doan, who's been an awesome story for the Sabres all year long, and he is here to stay for a long time. I did wonder to start things off, though, because if you are a Buffalo sports fan, Bills and Sabres, you might have heard Sabres owner Terry Pegula with Bills GM Brandon Beane at a press conference yesterday. And to put it lightly, it did not go well. And there were a lot of bad headlines created from that in the media. And sure, a lot of that was the national media, but local too. And I'm a part of that. But I wondered when they signed Josh Doan, they're just trying to get a little bit of a distraction for sports fans. You know, didn't have a great morning for the Buffalo sport fan, and that was dominating the headlines. So let's get some feel-good news out there. Sabres, so let's get some feel-good news. And you know, maybe they're not going to sign Alex Tuch, so what's the deal to make? Doan, perfect. Everyone loves Josh Doan. He's having a great year. It's a great trade. Yeah, get 7 years in. No one will be mad at that deal at all, and nobody was. Probably not what happened. Maybe it's what happened. You never know. So to get to, though, the real merits of this contract, it's a 7-year deal, $6.95 million for Josh Doan, who has only played half a year, and you might think that this is early, but that's how the league works. We know Kevin Adams loved to do that. And here's Jarmo Kekalainen's first opportunity to do the same thing, where you got a lot of, he's only played 40 whatever games for you. But I don't think anybody is really all that concerned, because the arrow was going up on Josh Doan leading into this signing. And I'm not really surprised by the signing at all. He was scheduled to be a restricted free agent at the end of the year. And in 49 games, got 15 goals, 20 assists, good for 35 points, which is over a 50-point pace on the season. And actually is about a 60-point pace on the season, which is really strong. And on top of that, if you've been watching him, you see the physicality. You see his defensive game, the back-checking, stick lifting that he has turned into goals repeatedly in recent weeks, playing on a top line, playing with Tage Thompson. He's playing at the top of a lineup, 16 minutes a night, which is almost 3 full minutes more than he was playing in Utah in a bottom 6 role. He's a guy that I wondered about coming into the year. Is he someone that has any upside offensively to play more than a 3rd or 4th line role? And I didn't know. And I thought that by looking at some of his numbers in Utah and Arizona, that there was a possibility of that, but I didn't know that I wanted to bet on it. So, and I'm not sure the Sabres really even would have thought it would go this well, because reminder, he was the second piece of the Peterka trade. they had already worked out, and this was explained in their Beyond Blue and Gold or embedded series that they did before the season. Kevin Adams on the phone with Utah, and they'd agreed on the Peterka Kesselring part. And Adams wanted Doan thrown in, and Utah was unwilling to do that. Deal didn't happen. Then overnight, Utah has a change of heart. They say, all right, we really want Peterka, so fine. We will put Doan in the deal. And they did. And again, he was the second piece of that deal. If he had just been a really good third liner that puts up 30 to 40 points, and Kesselring was what you wanted him to be, you get what you want out of that trade. It's gone very differently than we would have expected. Kesselring hasn't been able to stay healthy, and he hasn't done anything yet. Now he's the bonus. Anything that Kesselring gives you at this point is the bonus. And Doan is the meat of it. He's been as good as Peterka offensively and gives you way more in all the other departments. So just on a one-for-one basis, it would be a win, let alone having any potential for Kesselring to contribute to you in the future, giving you even more of a plus on that side. So the trade looks great. And I think what he's doing offensively is sustainable. Like, he is scoring some goals from distance and has a nice shot, but he gets to the dirty areas. He, I think, has a pretty good mind for the game. He's not the greatest playmaker in the world, but I think he's got some chops in that department. I've been more and more impressed with him on the power play in that department as the season has gone on, especially in the last 2-3 weeks. He can move the puck, and he scores in those critical areas. He's a pretty good skater, right? I like him in that he's not slow by any means. He's just a good all-around hockey player. And to get him at just a hair below $7 million is something that I talk about a lot. I think many will, is, you know, you got to reset your mind a little bit to what a $7 million contract means in a cap world that is going to exceed $100 million after this year. And it's going to go up to 113 and then maybe even higher than that. You know, it's not a crazy translation, but $7 million in 3 years might be more like, you know, a $5.5 million deal, or, you know, something around those lines. So this deal is a very, very reasonable contract, I think, on both sides. And I'm glad that they did not a bridge deal, but a long-term deal to get that salary down rather than sign a 2 or a 3-year deal, then have to reset in a couple of years. Long-term, I thought, made a lot of sense. And I think he's a part of the core. You know, like, figuring out who the core is right now, I mean, they kind of have a lot of guys that you could really consider to be a part of the core. Tage, we know, is in it. Dahlin, we know, is in it. And this year, I mean, Doan has fought his way in. And I think that you're seeing Samuelsson fight his way back in. Power is in it right now. We could debate Byram. We could debate Tuch, of course, because that's just contract, and we'll talk about him. McLeod, Ostlund, Hellenius, and Benson, I think, are guys that are fighting their way into that. But Doan is, like, as established in their core now as anybody that's not named Tage Thompson or Rasmus Dahlin. Honestly, right? Like, he's on the level maybe with Samuelsson up front. And Samuelsson had a long-term deal, and now Doan does. So I love that player. I love the trade. Looking back on it, I love the role that he's in, the age. It's just, it all works. There was really no downside. He's 23 years old still, by the way. The only counterpoint you could make is, well, he's only done it for 50 games. And I hear that, but I think more times than not, it's going to end up, the play that you're seeing is going to be what holds true. Sure, there are examples of guys that you sign too early and then it ends up not looking that great. I think Dylan Cousins is one of those guys. Samuelsson was looking like one of those guys until he bounced back. So that could happen. I'm not really that open to it. And honestly, even if it did, he's at 13% shooting percentage right now, which is only 1% above his career average. Like, he's not shooting. If he was shooting 20% and had 20 goals, 15 goals, I would think, well, little tricky here. You want to sign a guy like that. He's due for regression. Will you still be happy with him when that regression comes? Guy's at 13%. I know he shoots the puck a lot, but I'm not thinking regression has to happen at all. 13 is perfectly sustainable, I think, for him. So if that's the case, then you're going to love it. And honestly, even if it does come down a little bit, he's on like a 28 goal pace right now. If he becomes a 20, 21 goal guy consistently, because he gives you so much in other departments, I think you'll be happy with the deal. And I think that's why most people love him as a player. The offense is great, but there's no question with him about determination and playing hard, all the talk of being hard to play against. Like, I roll my eyes at that when you're getting a player that isn't very good at offense or carrying the puck and all the things that are most important. But the perfect thing is always get a guy like that also can play the sport. And they have that. Josh Doan, I think, is meeting expectation on all fronts. So love the deal. Love the trade right now. And I think you can feel comfortable buying his jersey if you're a fan that is looking for a deal. I was with some family yesterday. And the other thing that is funny is, it was my uncle. Somebody said, I love him because he reminds me of his dad. And Shane Doan was a guy that Sabre fans always wanted. And the Sabres wanted, right? Like, when he was late in his career, like when he was 35, 36, and at that point, Shane Doan was still like a 20-goal guy, a 50-point guy that did everything you wanted him to do. And fans wanted him. He was like that veteran leader that was still good, that made a ton of sense. And the Sabres offered him a healthy deal, more money, if I remember the story right, than anybody else had offered him. And he still just didn't want to do it. I mean, he wanted to stay in Phoenix his entire career, and he did that. That was an idea that the Sabres and Sabre fans wanted. And it is interesting that, 12, 13 years later, his kid plays just like him, and you have him. And you have him for now, till 2033, 2034. So pretty cool story. They ended up getting a Doan, and he's great. Will he be better than his dad is an interesting question. Shane Doan, of course, had the longevity. He played till he was 40. He scored 28 goals, by the way, in his second to last year at 29. He never scored more than 31 goals, though. And, the guy played 21 years and 73 points was his career high. I might be open a little bit to Josh Doan being better than Shane Doan. I mean, it's a lot to live up to. And the longevity, again, is the number one point of that. Shane Doan was a guy that never made an all-star game. So Josh Doan, maybe he's a future Team USA guy, by the way, 27 years old, third, fourth line in the future. Love it. All right, when we come back, I want to get to what the Doan contract does for the cap picture overall, where the Sabres now stand. They have more money committed next year than you might think, and how that impacts an Alex Tuch extension when we return on Locked On Sabres. Today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast is presented by Game Time. Hey, if you want to go watch Josh Doan play hockey, go check out the Game Time app. Get in the arena. There's nothing like being near the ice during hockey season. Especially, I sat on the boards earlier this year, and when you get those hits right along the wall, imagine sitting in the front row and Josh Doan wrecks somebody into the glass right in front of where you're sitting. You get that speed, hits, atmosphere. It's awesome. And watching at home's great, but being in the building is a completely different experience. The only thing that would used to get in the way was actually getting the tickets. You'd have long queues, endless screens, prices that change as you get to check out. And that's why the Game Time app gives the advantage back to fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing NHL tickets and experiences in just a few taps. You pull up the Game Time app, you check out upcoming games, and you're surprised that you'll see how fast it goes, and you're going to find great seats. Right now, I'm doing that. I want to see LeBron in a couple of weeks. So I'm checking out the Game Time app, what we're looking at, what the views look like from your seats, because that's a feature that you get. The app's incredibly easy to use. The browsing, comparing, I mentioned the seat views, which is great. Zone deals are clutch. You choose the section. Game Time will pick the seats. You don't have to spend all that time looking seat by seat on the map. And for hockey, sometimes you get tickets as low as $25. So Game Time guarantee, that gives you a real peace of mind. Amazing features. And my favorite part, I love the seat view feature, but knowing what you're going to pay right when you get in the app, not hiding these hidden fees. You get to check out and it's twice as much as you were expecting. You're not going to find that in Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off at Game Time. Sneaky Joe DiBiase back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Josh Doan signed 7 years, $6.95 million. We will get to the matchup with Montreal. But before we do that, I want to take just a few minutes and explore where we're at with the Sabres cap situation for next season. With the Josh Doan contract, the Buffalo Sabres for 2026-27 have $90.7 million committed to the cap. That is a cap that is going to be between $104 and $105 million. So $13-14 million to play with. Where is all that money going? They have a lot of extensions. Norris is on an extension. Tage is on a deal, even though it's a great one. Doan now is on a deal. Dahlin, Power, Byram for the time being. Samuelson's contract, Luukkonen, and Jeff Skinner. The Jeff Skinner buyout will reach its high next year. $6.444 million cap hit for the Jeff Skinner buyout next year. This year it was 4.4. It will be 2.4 each year after next year. So next year is the 1 year where it balloons up. I don't know why that's the case. Cap gymnastics, it's the CBA, very strange, but that's how it is. 6.4 million is the Skinner cap hit next year. So 13 in space. That's the sixth least going into next year. The Sabres, as of right now, remember, a team that's been having an internal cap and not spending to the cap, right now, as of this moment, they have the sixth most money spent for next season. And that's without a Tuch contract. A Tuch contract would likely put them up to number one as the most money spent. So let's figure out, with the Doan contract now in, what room is there for Tuch, given other things they will have to do. And we can try to figure out if this deal makes it feel like they're not going to sign Tuch. $13.2 million. Who other than Alex Tuch do the Sabres have to sign next year? Let's start with Zach Benson. He's a restricted free agent. They are going to keep Zach Benson. He's an important player. He's an incredibly valuable player. He has not put up the offensive numbers yet, I think, to earn a big pay raise. Maybe, though, you would argue that he's worth something if you were going to sign him long-term that is not that much less than what Josh Doan just signed for. Doan is, as I mentioned, 35 points in 49 games, and Benson is 22 points in 36 games. It's not that far off. And while Doan is bigger and a little bit more physical, Benson is incredible defensively. He's a very good passer. He's younger by a couple of years. And he's just as much of a dog in the corners and on the wall, wins just as many battles, which is incredible to him. So that is probably, to me, a deal, if it's a long-term deal and not a bridge, somewhere in the $6 to $6.5 million territory would be my guess. Maybe they want to do a bridge deal. Maybe Benson wants to do a bridge deal and thinks, I've got more to give offensively. I'm only 20. Give me a 2-year deal for $4 million so that I can maybe become an $8-9 million player. That's a possibility. But let's say they go long-term and Benson signs for 6, which I think is a conservative number. In fact, I'll even make it 6.5. I think 6 is too little. So now I'm down to about roughly $7 million. Okay? $7 million. I already don't have enough space to sign Alex Tuch. Just if you want to sign Benson to a long-term deal, no Tuch, without doing something else. And they're going to need a little bit more room to fill in a fourth line, right? Because like Beck Mallon signs a free agent. You don't have to bring him back, but you might want to bring back someone like him. Josh Dunn is a free agent. And you've got Kulik and you've got Oslin, you've got Hellenis, but these guys are not fourth liners, so that gets a little bit tricky. I mean, I would love for them to get the Greenway contract off their books at $4 million and sign Mallenstein to, a fourth of that. That would be fantastic. They're going to have to do something like that. Probably even if they don't sign Alex Tuch, or even if they, if they don't sign Alex Tuch, they probably will need to do that. They also need to sign Michael Kesselring. And that's a tough one right now. That's definitely a bridge deal because he's been injured. That's a couple million. I don't think he's earned anything significant. Maybe 2.5, 3 million, $4 million. He right now is getting paid 1.4. So it'll be a raise from that. I don't think it's a significant raise, but let's say it's 2.5 million for Kesselring. Now we're down to 4.5 million roughly in space. Again, We're nowhere near the money you need to pay Alex Tuch. What about Peyton Krebs? You could let him walk, or you sign someone like him. Either way, that's $1.5 million that comes off your deal. Now I'm at 3. I mentioned the Malenstein signing. Malenstein done. You add a 7th defenseman, and I guess Bryson's under contract. Actually, Bryson is not under contract, so you want $800K to replace him. And now I'm like in the $1-2 million range. See, like that was easy, and I was conservative on a lot of those, and I'm already down to like $1-2 million without signing Tuch. It's going to be tough. I'm really wondering today, after the Doan signing and it being a long-term deal instead of a bridge deal, if we are seeing the writing on the wall. They are not planning their cap out as of right now to have Alex Tuch be a part of the team going forward. What you would need to do to create the room to pay Tuch, say, $10 million a year, well, you can't have Jordan Greenway on your team at $4 million. That gets me almost halfway there. Where else do I create space? Am I dumping Justin Danforth? $1.8 million. That seems like an easy one. All right, now I've cleared 5.8. Do I want to get rid of Byram this summer and make a trade there? That's a $6 million deal. Then I've got enough room. If you're bringing back someone like on a rookie deal or you're doing it for picks and prospects, do you want to find a different home for Luukkonen? They're playing him right now, and he's playing well enough that I don't know that that's in the cards. They need to make a tough decision. Danforth, Greenway, to me, those are easy ones. That only gets you roughly halfway there. You sign everybody and that you need to sign, and I think you're out of space for Tuch without doing something significant. And then you're right up against the cap. But that would only be for next year. The following year, cap goes up another $10 million, a little bit more breathing space. And if you've got all those deals signed, then you might feel like you're in decent shape. Because by then, Ostlund is the only one you'd really probably have to worry about paying at this rate. He looks awesome. The one other name I'll mention here, though, somebody that I could see Jarmo Kekalainen looking at and saying, I got to make some room. Who is part of the core? Who isn't? And if you're not a part of the core and you're not on a rookie deal, or you're not Malenstein, who's going to make $1 million, I got to find a way to get rid of you. Jack Quinn is the other name. He is having a good year, I think. His shot has been awesome. He still drives me nuts, and I think more plays end in turnovers with him than any other player on the ice. So he's definitely not a perfect cause, but he's playing well enough to have a little bit of value. Can you, with all those contracts to sign, and if you want to bring in Alex Tuch, afford Jack Quinn to be on your roster at $3.375 million? I think the answer to that question is no. You can't. So if you want to find a home for Quinn, a home for Greenway, and a home for Danforth, and get a bunch of picks and prospects for those three and sign Alex Tuch, that's about a wash. You could have Tuch, or you could have Greenway, Quinn, and Danforth. And I bet if I lay it out that way, it sounds like, well, that's an easy one. I'd rather have Alex Tuch. But you gotta figure, you gotta do some things. You gotta find teams that are gonna want those guys on those contracts, and that might not be as easy as I'm leading on. Then you have to sign guys to replace them, and that'll be $1 million or $2 or $3. So it's gonna take some cap gymnastics after this Doan signing. I don't think it's over. I don't think it's impossible they would sign Tuch, but someone's gotta go. Couple of guys gotta go at this point if they are going to sign Alex Tuch. The easiest thing to do for them would just be to not sign him. Play out the year, let him walk, sign Benson, sign Kesselring, sign a couple fourth liners, and carry a few million of space into the year and do it that way. They want him, they got to make some room. My favorite idea, just to give my final opinion on this for today, is I would find a way to create $10 million. I would keep him. I would sign him. I would get rid of Greenway, get rid of Quinn, get rid of Danforth, as I mentioned. And I probably got to say goodbye to one other important piece. And that is going to be a tough one. I would probably tell you right now, the guy that I would sell high on for that would be Byram. And that's a tough pill to swallow. It becomes Byram versus Tuch for me. It's a really, really close one. I think you can make a great argument on either side. I think Byram is having a career year. I'm not sure how sustainable it is offensively. He still is a little sloppy in his own end. And I think that the trade value you couldn't get for him last year, I would really attempt to get it this year. Get a haul for him in the final year of his deal at $6.25 million. And then you would feel really good about your cap situation. But again, tomorrow I might tell you I would rather have Byram. I think keeping Byram and Tuch on long-term deals, though, is probably impossible. It's got to be one of the two, not both. All right, finally, when we come back, Sabres and Canadiens, a massive matchup. My bet of the night and more on Locked On Sabres. Welcome back, Locked On Sabres podcast. The Sabres and the Canadiens in Montreal. These two teams met about a week ago, and they are currently fighting in the standings. The Sabres are 4 back of Montreal with 1 game in hand and 2 games against each other in the next 9 days. They play tonight. They will play next Saturday night in Buffalo. If the Sabres were to win tonight in regulation, 2 points back with a game in hand. That'd feel great. I don't want to jump too far ahead because this team right now, the goal is winning the drought. I don't know how much you're going to want to hear about who I want them to play in the playoffs. Maybe we can have that conversation more in depth when we get to the end of the season, if they're in really, really, really good shape. Just to throw it out there, though, the 3rd Atlantic spot for playoff seeding, a lot better than the number 1 wildcard position. Because right now, the number 1 wildcard position would play either Carolina or Tampa Bay. That's what looks like it's probably going to happen. The 3rd spot in the Atlantic probably plays Detroit. And honestly, right now, I would pick Buffalo or Montreal to beat Detroit in a first-round playoff series. Either one of them, I think, are better teams than the Red Wings are. So, but we can get to that down the road. Catching Montreal, it's just another team to stay in front of to help solidify yourself making the playoffs and just break the drought. And in this game, you've got a home ice advantage for the Canadiens. The Sabres got that 1 day of rest in between, and you got 2 good young teams going at it. They played a good hockey game last week. The Sabres got down, remember, in that game, came back in the second period, 05-06 night. It was the second of a back-to-back, which makes it even more impressive from Buffalo's perspective and not as impressive from Montreal's. The Canadiens, though, I watched their game the other night against Minnesota, and that's a good Minnesota team. And Montreal outplayed them almost the whole way. Like, they're so good. They're so fast. They are so young. Like, they are going to be here to stay for years and years. Nick Suzuki, Lane Hudson, Cole Caulfield scoring the game-tying goal the other night, or game-winning goal, I should say, in the final seconds against Minnesota. Should have been on Team USA. Lane Hudson, by the way, not getting selected with an injury. Seth Jones not going to the Olympics now with an injury, and they picked Jackson Lacombe of Anaheim over Lane Hudson. Lane Hudson has 52 points in 50 games. And I know we can't have just offensive guys all over the team, but he's a darn good defenseman all the way around. I like him a lot. Demidov at 20 is having a great year. Slavkovsky, former number 1 overall pick. I mean, look at the ages of their top 5 scorers. 26, 21, 25, 20, 21. Good and young, fast and skilled, and depth all over the team. Forward-wise, they have 3 scoring lines. Gallagher, Deneau, and Anderson. That's your veteran third line. That's a good third line. Your blue line has Matheson and Dobson, the Dobson trade. Remember, the Sabres wanted him in the offseason, couldn't get him. He said yes to Montreal. They brought him in. Hudson and Caden Gooley and even Alex Carrier. Like, I kind of like all 6 of their defensemen to some level. Goalie is the one thing that I wonder how sustainable it is. They've been getting okay goaltending from Jacob Fowler, the guy who played last week against Buffalo. They've not been getting as good goaltending from their top 2 guys. And tonight what we're getting is Sam Montembeault. And Sam Montembeault, who was their starter last year, was really good, actually came into the year on Team Canada's radar, has been brutal this year. And when I saw that he was starting, he finished 8th in Vezina voting last year. When I saw he was starting against the Buffalo Sabres, I was like, licking my chops. Like, all right, perfect. That was the guy I wanted. And at the moment of recording here, we don't know who's starting in net for Buffalo. I would be surprised if it's not Luukkonen. In fact, I'd be stunned if it's not Luukkonen. I guess it could be Ellis, but I would think it would be Luukkonen. The goalie matchup tonight is advantage Buffalo. Luukkonen he's had some rocky moments earlier in the year, but he's been very good in the last month. That's a goalie advantage for the Buffalo Sabres. Right now, including all goaltenders on the year, out of a total of 85 goals saved above expected, out of 85 goaltenders, Luukkonen ranks 33rd in the positive. Montembeault, 68th out of 85. He is in the negative on the year. And there are only like 18, 19 goalies that are actually in the negative from what I'm looking at. And he's one of them. So you got the goalie advantage. And I think it's two pretty even-keeled teams. So I feel pretty good about their chances tonight, but it's definitely going to be a dogfight, and it could really go either way. If you can get these 2 wins, though, against Montreal today and then next week, they're going to be looking really good for a top 3 spot in the Atlantic. Very quickly, before we wrap up things, I will give you my bet of the night here on the podcast. And by the way, quick update on where we stand for that. We are at plus 9.8 units on the year. We've been right around that double-digit mark, for the last little bit. I am going to go with the rookie again. Consta Hellenis, plus 500. I've loved that kid line. And if you compare that to some of their Sabres' other forwards, the only forwards that have worse goal-scoring props than Hellenis in this game, Malenstein and Greenway. That's it. And with that shot we saw from Hellenis and the dominance that line had, buzzing around the zone, I like him a lot. Plus 500. I liked Oslin, but Oslin's up at plus 360. Benson's at plus 450. I'll take Hellenis, who's at the bottom, with plus 500. The Sabres are a slight underdog in this game, plus 104. It's very nearly a pick 'em. The over-under is at 6.5 goals, so they're expecting some offense in this one. Massive game. We'll talk about it after it's over, and hopefully we're talking about a 2-point gap between Buffalo and Montreal. If they were to lose in regulation, that's why it's such a big game, you'd be 6 back. And you don't want to fall that far back up the top 3. Talk to you tomorrow in the Locked On Sabres podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Oh, reminder, Everydayers Club, jump in, lockedonsabres.supercast.com to get into our Discord and ad-free versions of the show. Talk to you tomorrow.